The fluorescent lights hummed. That was the first thing I noticed. Not the recorder on the table tracking my breathing or the camera mounted in the corner, but that low electrical buzz that basement offices always have. The kind that gets into your skull after about 20 minutes. I sat in a metal chair that wasn't quite bolted down, but felt permanent anyway. Gray walls, no windows. A table between me and the woman with the clipboard who'd introduced herself as Polly White. She wore a lab coat over a navy blouse and had her hair pulled back tight enough that I wondered if it gave her headaches. The camera was angled weird, not pointed at my face, at my hands. I noticed that right away. They wanted to see if I'd fidget, probably, or shake. I kept them flat on the table and didn't move them unless I had to. "We'll start with baseline," Polly said. Her voice was calm, clinical. She had a slight accent I couldn't quite place. "I'm going to say a series of words. You'll repeat them back to me in the same order." Standard memory test. I'd done these before during my security clearance renewals. Sure. Cardinal, briefcase, olive, thread. Cardinal, briefcase, olive, thread. She wrote something down, didn't look up. Now backward. Thread, olive, briefcase, cardinal. Good. She flipped a page. "Tell me what you had for breakfast 3 days ago." I thought about it. Tuesday morning, I'd been running late. Coffee, a granola bar, the kind with chocolate chips. Brand? Nature Valley, I think. Another note. The recorder kept going. A tiny red light, blinking every few seconds. My breathing sounded louder than it should have. Describe the last argument you had with a coworker. That one threw me a little. I tried to remember. Last month. Guy named Stevens wanted to reclassify a file I'd flagged as low priority. We went back and forth about the metadata tags for maybe 10 minutes. I don't think it counted as an argument, really. Who won? I did. The tag stayed. She didn't react, just kept writing. How did that make you feel? I almost laughed. Didn't. Fine, it wasn't personal. What if I told you Stevens filed a complaint about that interaction? My hands stayed flat. I'd say that's his right. I followed procedure. Even if the complaint claimed you were hostile? I wasn't hostile. I kept my voice level, but if that's what he felt, he can document it. Polly looked at me then. Not long. Just a flicker. Then back to her notes. We're going to shift topics. I'm going to describe a scenario. You'll tell me your first response. Don't overthink it. Okay. You receive a file with a missing page. The metadata shows it was removed before you accessed it. What do? Flag it. Report the gap to my supervisor. Request the full document if my clearance allows. Your supervisor says the page isn't relevant to your work. Do you pursue it? No, if it's not relevant, it's not relevant. What if you suspect it is relevant? I hesitated, just for a second. I'd ask once more. If the answer's still no, I drop it. She tilted her head slightly. You don't get curious? Curiosity's fine. Acting on it outside protocol isn't. Another note. Longer this time. The fluorescent hum got louder. Or maybe I was just noticing it more. Next scenario. A colleague mentions seeing something unusual in a case file. Something that doesn't match the official summary. They ask if you've noticed it too. Have I? Answers if you have. I thought about it. I'd tell them to document it through proper channels, and I'd do the same. Even if documenting it might flag you both for additional scrutiny? Yeah. Why? Because that's the job. Polly set her pen down. She folded her hands on top of the clipboard and looked at me directly. Do you consider yourself someone who follows rules, Mr. Richards? I try to. That's not the same as yes. Then yes, I follow rules. What about rules you don't agree with? I kept my face neutral. I still follow them. Or I find a different job. She picked up her pen again, flipped another page. This one had a printed document clipped to it. I couldn't read it from where I sat, but I saw the black bars, redactions, heavy ones. I'm going to read you a passage, she said. Listen carefully. She cleared her throat and started. Subject reported recurring dreams beginning on... She paused where a date should have been. Redacted. In which a figure described as too tall for the room appeared at the foot of the bed. Subject initially dismissed these as stress-related, but noted that the figure's appearance remained consistent across multiple nights. And another gap. Subject began experiencing similar intrusions during waking hours, primarily in peripheral vision. Cognitive function remained stable. No physiological markers of... Redacted again. She stopped, looked up. Does that remind you of anything? Should it? I'm asking if it does. I thought about it. Weird dreams. A tall figure. Peripheral stuff. It sounded vaguely familiar in the way a lot of things sound familiar when you've read enough case files, but nothing specific came to mind. Not really. You've never experienced anything similar? No. You've never read a case file describing similar events? Maybe. I've read a lot of case files. She wrote something. I watched her hand move across the page. Small, tight handwriting. How do you feel right now? Fine. Heart rate? I focused on it. A little elevated, maybe. Normal. Are you nervous? A little? No point lying. The recorder probably already knew. Why? Because I don't know what this is for. She almost smiled. Didn't quite. That bothers you? Wouldn't it bother anyone? Some people, yes. Others find uncertainty motivating. I didn't say anything to that. She waited like she wanted me to fill the silence. I didn't. The door opened. A man stepped in, tall, maybe 6'2". Gray hair cropped military short, dark suit, no tie. He moved like someone used to, people getting out of his way. Polly, he said, nodded at her. Joey. She stood, gathered her clipboard. Is that baseline's complete? He's stable. Good. He looked at me, not friendly, not unfriendly, just looking. Mr. Richards, I'm Joey James. I run this division. I started to stand. He waved me back down. Stay seated. This won't take long. He pulled out the chair Polly had been using and sat. Didn't slouch. Posture like a board. I've reviewed your service record. 8 years with the Department of Defense. Signals analysis. Clearance up to TS-SCI. No disciplinary flags. 2 commendations. You left on good terms. Yes, sir. Why'd you leave? I'd answered this before during the preliminary interview. Wanted something with less travel, more stable hours. You got married. Engaged. At the time. Not anymore. No, sir. He didn't ask why. Just kept going. You've been with the Archives Division for 3 years. Metadata review, file integrity checks, some light analysis work. Your supervisor says you're thorough. Maybe too thorough. I don't know what that means. It means you don't let things go when they don't add up. I wasn't sure if that was a compliment or a problem. I try to be accurate, Accuracy's good. Obsession isn't. He leaned back slightly. The chair creaked. What do you know about this division? Not much. The job posting said intelligence analysis, specialized focus. That's about it. Did you look us up? I tried, didn't find much. That's intentional. He pulled a folder from under his arm and set it on the table. Plain manila. No markings. What I'm about to tell you is classified. You don't repeat it. You don't write it down. You don't mention it to anyone outside this building. Clear? Clear. We monitor potential threat vectors that don't fit traditional intelligence frameworks, unconventional sources, fringe material, and stuff that looks like noise until it isn't. I waited for more. He didn't give it. That's vague on purpose, he said. If you come on board, you'll get specifics as needed. Not before. You okay? Part of our work involves online content, fiction mostly, posted on public platforms. We track it, we analyze it, we look for patterns. I must have shown something on my face because he stopped. You think that sounds ridiculous, he said. I think I don't understand it yet. Good answer. He opened the folder, slid a single page across the table. It was a printout, a web page, some kind of story post. The title was redacted. So was the author name. But I could see the first few lines. I found the staircase on a Tuesday. It wasn't there the day before. I'm sure of that because I walk this route every morning and I notice things. Read it, Joey said. I skimmed the rest. It was a first-person account. Someone finding a staircase in the woods that led down into the ground. They went down, found rooms, hallways, doors that opened into places that shouldn't exist. The writing was decent, a little unpolished. The kind of thing you'd find on a horror fiction subreddit. Okay, I said. 3 weeks after that was posted, we received a report from a field team in Oregon. They'd been investigating unrelated activity and found a structure matching that description. Layout, details, down to the number of steps. I looked at him. He wasn't joking. Could be coincidence, I said. Could be, we thought so too. Then it happened again. Different story, different location, same result. I set the page down. How many times? Enough that we take it seriously. So what? Someone's writing about real places? Or real places are appearing after they're written about? We don't know. That's what we're trying to figure out. I didn't say anything. My brain was trying to sort it into something that made sense. It wasn't working. This job isn't about answers, Joey said. It's about tracking questions. You'll read material that sounds insane. You'll cross-reference it with field data that shouldn't match but does. You'll write reports no one outside this division will ever see. And you won't get explanations for most of it. Why not? Because we don't have them. Or because you don't need them. Depends on the day. He pulled the page back, slid it into the folder. You'll sign an NDA that'll bury you if you break it. You'll work in a secure facility. No remote access, no external storage. You don't talk about your work. Not to friends, not to family, not to anyone. I understand. Do you? He looked at me hard. Because most people say they do, and then 6 months in, they're calling Polly because they can't sleep. Or they start asking questions we can't answer and they spiral. This job gets into your head if you let it. I can handle it. That's what they all say. Polly spoke from behind me. I'd almost forgotten she was still in the room. We'll need to continue the evaluation, stress baseline, cognitive flexibility, a few more scenario prompts. Joey stood. You've got 2 hours. If he's still stable after that, we'll move forward. He left without saying anything else. The door clicked shut. Polly sat back down, picked up her clipboard. We're going to try something different now. I'll describe a situation. You'll walk me through your thought process. Not just what you'd do, how you'd feel. I nodded. You're assigned a case file. It describes events that shouldn't be possible. Documented by multiple credible witnesses, supported by physical evidence. But it violates everything you understand about how the world works. What's your first thought? I considered it. That I'm missing context. You're not. You have all available information. It still doesn't make sense. Then I'd look for alternative explanations. There aren't any. You've checked. What now? I stopped. Tried to think it through. I'd document what I know. Report it accurately, even if I don't understand it. Does that bother you, not understanding? Yeah, but I'd still do the job. She made a note. Why? Because someone has to. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have. She watched me for a long moment. Then she flipped to a new page. Let's continue. The next 2 hours blurred together. More scenarios, more weird questions. She asked me about gaps in my memory, about times I'd felt watched, about dreams I couldn't explain. She showed me more redacted files, more printouts of stories I didn't recognize. One of them was about a man who kept finding notes in his handwriting that he didn't remember writing. Another was about a woman who saw herself in places she'd never been. Polly asked if I'd experienced anything similar. I hadn't. She asked how I'd react if I did. I said I'd report it. She asked if I'd trust my own perception after that. I didn't know. The camera kept recording. My hands stayed on the table. I didn't shake. By the time Polly finally set down her clipboard, my head felt stuffed with cotton. The fluorescent hum had burrowed into my skull and set up camp. That's enough for today, she said. You did well. Do I pass? We'll let you know. She stood, gathered her things, paused at the door. For what it's worth, most people don't make it this far. Is that supposed to be reassuring? She almost smiled again. No. Then she was gone. I sat alone in the gray room with the recorder still blinking and the camera still watching my hands. The fluorescent lights hummed. My reflection stared back at me from the black screen of the recorder. I thought about the stories, the staircases and the notes and the impossible things that kept lining up with reality. I thought about Joey's face when he'd said we don't know. The weight in those words. The absolute certainty that he meant it. This was insane. Treating internet fiction like a national security threat. Monitoring creepypasta for operational intelligence. It sounded like something out of a bad TV show. But the room didn't feel like a joke. The tests didn't feel like theater. And Joey James didn't look like someone who wasted time on nonsense. I knew I was going to take the job. I'd known it the second he'd slid that printout across the table. Not because it made sense, not because I understood it, but because the alternative was going back to my cubicle in the archives and spending the rest of my career wondering what I'd walked away from. They wanted someone who could sit with uncertainty, who could follow orders that didn't make sense, who could read impossible things and write them down without demanding explanations. I could do that. I wasn't sure if that was a good thing. The recorder blinked. The camera watched. The lights hummed. I stayed in my chair and waited for someone to tell me what happened next. They called it Content Integrity Analyst. That was the title on my paperwork when I showed up 2 weeks later. I signed the NDA in a conference room that smelled like burnt coffee and old carpet. Joey James sat across from me and didn't say much, just slid the pages over and pointed at the signature lines. There were 11 of them. I read the whole thing anyway. Took me 40 minutes. The penalty started at federal prosecution and got worse from there. After that, Denise Green walked me down to the basement. She was probably mid-40s. Sandy blonde hair cut straight at her shoulders. Green eyes that didn't blink much. Wore a gray cardigan over a white blouse and carried a tablet like it was part of her hand. We took the elevator down 3 floors, then she swiped her badge at a door I hadn't noticed during the first visit. Different hallway. Same fluorescent hum. "You'll need these," she said, handing me a lanyard with my photo already printed on it. My name, the fake title, and a barcode. Badge opens your workstation, the archive room, and the second floor break room. Nowhere else unless we add it. Got it? Your workstation's isolated. No external network access, no USB ports, no phone sync. If you need to pull something from the public web, you submit a request through the portal and Danny handles it. Who's Danny? Technical. You'll meet him. She turned a corner and stopped at a door with a card reader, swiped her badge, held it open. This is you. The room was small, maybe 10 feet by 12. Desk, chair, computer terminal, filing cabinet. One overhead light. No windows. The walls were that same pale gray I remembered from the testing room. Cozy, I said. Denise didn't smile. You'll get used to it. She set 3 binders on the desk, thick ones. The spines had printed labels. Narrative hazards, identification and extraction protocols, mimetic exposure limits and monitoring, and parapsychological echo entities. Classification reference. I stared at the last one. Parapsychological. That's the term we use, Denise said. Read all 3 by the end of the week. There's a quiz. Seriously? Seriously? She tapped her tablet. Your login credentials are active. Passwords on the sticky note under your keyboard. Change it after first login. Don't write it down anywhere. Okay. Polly will check in with you on Fridays. If you experience any symptoms listed in Binder 2, you report them immediately. Don't wait for Friday. What kind of symptoms? Read Binder 2, Denise said. She was already halfway out the door. Welcome to the team. Then she was gone. I sat down in the chair. It squeaked. The computer monitor was black, waiting. I found the sticky note. Password was a random string of 16 characters, no pattern I could see, and logged in. The desktop had 4 icons: email, portal, archive, reports. I opened the email. Empty inbox. 1 item in the sent folder, auto-generated, boarding confirmation. I closed it and looked at the binders. Figured I'd start with the one that sounded least insane. Training was the only thing that felt solid. The first binder laid it out step by step. How to identify potential narrative hazards. That meant stories, posts, anything written and shared online that matched criteria in the appendix. How to extract them without altering metadata. How to preserve timestamps, usernames, platform details, edit histories. How to map spread. Who shared it, where it went, how many people saw it. Then you compared it against the index. The index was in Binder 3. It was a list of entity designations, code names mostly, with associated characteristics, behavior patterns, environmental markers, witness descriptions. The idea was you read a story, pulled the details, and checked if they matched anything already flagged. If they did, you wrote a report, sent it up the chain. If they didn't, you logged it anyway, just in case. Binder 2 was the one that got weird. It covered exposure limits, how long you could read this stuff before it started messing with you, recommended breaks, cognitive check-ins, symptoms to watch for, intrusive thoughts, memory gaps, recurring dreams, sense of being observed, déjà vu in places you've never been. I read that part twice. It sounded exactly like what Polly had asked me about during testing. The binder didn't explain why reading stories would cause symptoms. Just said it could and that we tracked it. I finished all 3 binders in 4 days. Took the quiz on the portal. Passed with a 92. Denise sent me an email that said, acceptable and nothing else. After that, they gave me real work. The first case was a forum post. Someone describing a recurring nightmare where they woke up and couldn't move, and there was a figure standing at the foot of the bed. Too tall. Didn't fit right in the room. The post had 83 replies, mostly people saying they'd had the same thing. I pulled the metadata, mapped the thread, checked the index. There was a designation in Binder 3 that matched. Something about nocturnal encounters, paralysis, and a presence described as wrongly proportioned. I wrote it up. Sent the report to Polly. She called me in that afternoon. Same gray room as before, same recorder on the table. Polly sat across from me with my report printed out, red pen in hand. You flagged this as a potential match to Echo 7, she said. Yeah, fit the profile. Did you check the user's post history? I hadn't. I told her that. Polly slid a printout across the table. It was a different post from the same user 2 months earlier, talking about a new prescription for anxiety, listing side effects they'd been experiencing. Sleep paralysis is a known side effect of that medication, Polly said. Reported in approximately 12% of users. The figure is a common hallucination during paralysis episodes. Oh. You did the extraction correctly. Metadata's clean, but you need to eliminate mundane explanations before you flag something. She tapped the printout. Always check context. Always check the user. Got it. She made a note on my report. You'll get better at it. I went back to my windowless room and pulled up the next case. Second one was a self-published novella. Some guy writing horror fiction on a platform that let you upload whatever you wanted. The story was about a family moving into a house where the walls bled. Not metaphorically, actual blood seeping through the paint. I extracted it, checked the metadata, mapped the shares. It had maybe 50 downloads, nothing viral. Checked the index. There was something in Binder 3 about structures exhibiting biological excretions. Different designation. Echo 12, I think. I almost flagged it. Then I remembered Polly's red pen. I dug into the author's profile. Found a blog post from 6 months earlier where he talked about researching for his story. He toured an abandoned school in Ohio. Took photos. One of them showed a wall with reddish-brown stains running down from the ceiling. I pulled the location from the blog post and cross-referenced it with public records. The school had been closed for 8 years. Mold problem. Specifically Serpula lacrimans, a type that produces rust-colored fluid when it breaks down certain materials. I wrote up the report, noted the source, marked it non-anomalous. Denise sent me an email 2 hours later. Good work. That felt better than the quiz score. I kept going. Most of it was like that. Stories that looked weird until you found the explanation. A post about hearing voices in the walls turned out to be someone living next to a radio tower. A video of shadows moving wrong was a lens flare and compression artifacts. A whole thread about missing time traced back to carbon monoxide poisoning in a basement apartment. The division's premise started to make sense. The internet was full of people writing creepy stuff, and sometimes they pulled details from real life without knowing it. Our job was making sure none of those details exposed actual operations. I could do that. Then my access broadened. 3 months in, Denise added archive clearance to my badge. I could pull older cases now, ones that had been flagged and investigated before I got here. That's when the coincidences got tighter. I found a post from 2 years ago describing a containment room. Concrete walls, steel door, observation window, specific layout. The author said they dreamed about it, said it felt real. I checked the index. Found a reference to a field site in Nevada with the exact same layout. Same dimensions, same window placement. But there was a note attached. The author had a cousin who worked construction. The cousin had done contract work for a private security firm. Talked about it at a family dinner. Mentioned the weird room he'd helped build. The author didn't remember the conversation, but the details got into their head anyway. Another case. Someone posted a detailed description of what it felt like to be near something they called the frequency gap. Pressure in the ears, taste of copper, sense of motion without moving. We had field notes from Oregon describing the same sensory effects, word for word in some places. But the author had a prescription history, neurological condition, documented auditory distortions, and vestibular dysfunction. The language matched symptom reports from their medical file, which had been part of a research study published online 3 years earlier. Every time there was a source. Retired contractor talking too much on a forum. Misfiled document that got scanned and indexed by accident. Medication side effect. Family story. Coincidence. I started to settle into it. The division's premise held. The internet copied reality. People absorbed details without knowing it, then wrote them down and called it fiction. Our job was tracking that process and making sure it didn't expose things that needed to stay buried. It made sense. It was manageable. I could do this work and go home and sleep fine. Until the next case refused to fit. The post came through on a Tuesday morning flagged by the portal's automated scan. I opened it with coffee, still cooling on my desk. Small blog. Maybe 300 followers total. Author name Karen Harrison. The title was The Hallway Dream. And the date stamp showed it went live at 2:15 a.m. the night before. Already mirrored on 4 aggregator sites by the time I pulled it up. I started reading. The first paragraph described a hotel corridor that shouldn't exist. Standard setup. Nothing unusual there. But the second paragraph used the phrase boundary drift to describe how the walls seemed closer each time the dreamer looked back. That got my attention. Third paragraph mentioned desynchronization. Watches running backward. Phone screens showing yesterday's date. Fourth paragraph called it an echo entity. I set my coffee down. Not echo entity lowercase, the way someone might use it casually. Capital E, echo entity. The exact terminology from our index, And the designation came 2 lines later. Echo 14. I read it again. Then I checked the source code to make sure I hadn't misread. Echo 14. Typed out clean, no edits. Posted at 2:15 in the morning by someone named Karen Harrison on a blog called Night Thoughts and Bad Fiction. The description continued. Shared dreams among unconnected witnesses. Equipment failure in proximity to affected individuals. Progressive spatial distortion in enclosed areas. Every detail matched our file. Not close. Matched. Down to the observation that subjects reported feeling watched from empty doorways. I pulled up the division index and opened Echo 14's entry. First recorded encounter. March 9th, 2 years ago. Field team in Minnesota responding to reports of missing time and shared hallucinations among residents of a 12-unit apartment building. Entity classification assigned April 2nd after pattern analysis. I checked Karen Harrison's post timestamp again, April 7th, 1 year earlier. 11 months before we ever heard of Echo 14, someone posted a story describing it in perfect detail, using terminology that didn't exist outside our secure facility. I flagged it priority and sent a message through the portal to Danny Bird in technical. Need full metadata workup on attached post. Backdating check, edit history, source verification. Today if possible. Danny's response came back in 6 minutes. On it. Preliminary scan shows clean timestamp, but I'll dig deeper. Give me 2 hours. I spent those 2 hours reading everything Karen Harrison ever posted. Her blog went back 4 years. Mostly personal essays about insomnia and creative burnout. Short fiction pieces that got maybe 10 views each. A few book reviews, nothing political, nothing fringe, nothing that suggested access to classified material or interest in the kind of communities that might discuss our work even hypothetically. Her About Me page said she was 29, lived in Silver Lake, worked part-time at a bookstore. She posted twice a week on average. The fiction was standard horror stuff. Creepy houses, strange sounds, bad dreams, low traffic content. The kind of thing that got 3 comments if she was lucky. I checked her social media, same username across platforms. Instagram showed photos of coffee and bookshelves. Twitter was mostly retweets of author interviews and complaints about rent. LinkedIn said she had a creative writing degree from a state school and had been at the same bookstore for 5 years. Nothing connected her to anyone in the division. No overlap with known witnesses. No ties to field sites or contractors. She didn't follow any forums we monitored. Her reading list was mainstream horror and literary fiction. Just a regular person posting stories about bad dreams. Except one of those dreams matched an entity we wouldn't encounter for another 11 months. Described using internal terminology she shouldn't know existed. Danny's email came through at 11:43. Metadata confirmed clean. No backdating, no edits post-publication. Original timestamp holds at 002:15 and Jaws 07, April 7th. Checked mirrors. All show same source date, propagated naturally within 4-6 hours via standard aggregator scraping. No manual manipulation detected. She posted it when the stamp says she posted it. I wrote back, how? No idea. But it's genuine. Want me to pull her device logs? I didn't answer right away. I sat there looking at the post on my screen and the index entry in the other window. Karen Harrison posted her story on April 7th. Our field team encountered Echo 14 on March 9th the following year, which meant either she somehow predicted an entity we didn't know existed using terminology we hadn't invented yet, or she accessed classified material that was never digitized and never left this building, or something else was happening that didn't fit any explanation I wanted to consider. Her author's note at the bottom of the post said, "Had this dream 3 nights in a row." Writing it down so maybe it stops. I don't know why my brain does this. That didn't change anything, dream or not. The details were there. The terminology was there. The threat was the same. I opened a new report form and marked it Priority Incident. Filled in the fields. Author name, post URL, timestamp, entity designation, threat assessment. I attached Danny's metadata analysis and my own summary of the terminology matches. Under recommended action, I typed immediate contact protocol. Source may have access to classified material or represent previously unknown transmission vector. I submitted it at 12:07. Joey James called me at 12:32. My office, now. His office was 2 floors up. Bigger than my room, but not by much. Same fluorescent lights. He had a window, but the blinds were closed. He had my report printed out on his desk. "You're sure about the timestamp?" he said. Danny confirmed it. Clean metadata, no edits, no backdating. She posted it when it says she posted it. "And you checked her background?" "Everything I could access without direct contact. Nothing connects her to us or any known witnesses. No relevant employment history, no clearance record, no association with monitored groups." Joey read through the report again. His jaw was tight. "The terminology," he said, "exact match. Echo entity capitalized. Designation format identical to our index. Even the behavioral patterns use our phrasing. Could be coincidence." "Could be," I said. I didn't believe it, and neither did he. He set the report down. "We don't do field contact often. You understand that?" "I understand. If we make contact, it's quiet. Federal cover, routine, follow-up on flagged content. You don't mention the division. You don't confirm her details are accurate. You collect information and get out." "Understood. Polly will need to clear you first. Exposure assessment. If she says no, someone else goes." I nodded. Joey picked up his phone and dialed a 3-digit extension. "It's me. I need Richards cleared for external contact. Today." He listened. "Approved. Send him down when you're done." He hung up and looked at me. "Polly's expecting you. After that, you'll coordinate with Danny on device logs and communication monitoring. Freddie Jones and Betty Carroll will provide field support if needed. You make contact, you ask questions, you report back. That's it." "What if she asks how I found her?" "Standard monitoring flagged the post. You're following up on potential security concerns. Keep it vague." I stood up. "Richards," Joey said. I stopped. "Read the full file on Echo 14 before you go. Everything we have. You need to know what you're walking into." "I will." I went back downstairs and opened the archive. Echo 14's file was 63 pages. I read all of it. Boundary drift, spatial distortion in enclosed areas, progressive and directional. Witnesses reported hallways extending, rooms changing layout, distances increasing between fixed points. Always in buildings, always in corridors or transitional spaces. Equipment desynchronization. Clocks running backward or stopping entirely. Phones displaying incorrect dates. Cameras capturing images out of sequence. Shared dream contamination. Multiple unconnected individuals reporting identical dreams, featuring the same impossible architecture. Dreams preceded physical manifestations, by an average of 4 to 9 days. Attention anchoring. The file was clear on this part. Repeated exposure to details increased manifestation probability. Discussing the entity, describing it, focusing on its patterns, all of it fed the effect. The more you looked, the more there was to see. Recommended protocol, minimal documentation, restricted discussion, exposure limits enforced. The last page had a note in red ink, handwritten. Describing the pattern strengthens the pattern. Limit repetition. I closed the file. Karen Harrison had described it in detail, posted it publicly, mirrored across 4 aggregator sites within hours. Hundreds of views by now, maybe thousands. If the file was right, she just amplified it. And now I had to go ask her how. I sent Danny a message approving the device log request, grabbed my jacket, and headed for Polly's office. She cleared me in 20 minutes. Standard questions, baseline check, no red flags. By 3 p.m. I had an address, a cover story, and clearance to make contact. I sat in my car outside the building for 5 minutes before starting the engine. The safest move was to describe less. I knew that. The file said it clearly. Attention anchors it. Repetition strengthens it. Every time you say the details out loud, you make it worse. But I needed to know how Karen Harrison wrote that post 11 months before we ever saw what she was describing. Which meant I had to ask, had to investigate, had to pull the details out into the open one more time. I started the car and pulled onto the road. Describe less. Investigate more. I didn't know how to do both. I left at 7:30 Thursday morning. Freddie Jones met me in the garage level with a black sedan that looked government enough to be boring. Betty Carroll was already in the back seat with a laptop bag and 2 thermoses of coffee. "Richards," Freddie said. No handshake, just a nod. I got in front. Betty handed me one of the thermoses without asking if I wanted it. The coffee was decent, better than the break room stuff. 5-hour drive, Freddie said. We stopped once. That was it for conversation the first 90 minutes. Freddie drove exactly the speed limit. Betty typed something on her laptop that I couldn't see and didn't ask about. I watched highway exit signs go past and tried not to think about the Echo 14 file. The dream started that night. I don't usually remember dreams. I know I have them because everyone does. But they're gone by the time I'm awake enough to care. This one stuck. A hallway. Cream-colored walls with that textured paint that was everywhere in the 90s. Carpet with a pattern that didn't commit to any specific color. Overhead, lights in rectangular panels, half of them flickering just enough to notice. Doors on both sides, numbers that I couldn't quite read, even though I was looking right at them. And at the end of the hall, an exit sign. Green letters on white. Tilted maybe 3 degrees to the left. Not enough that you'd fix it, just enough that once you saw it, you kept seeing it. I walked down the hallway. It didn't get closer. Woke up at 3:15 a.m. in the hotel room, with my heart doing something it didn't need to be doing. Checked my phone. Notifications were normal. No missed calls. I went back to sleep and didn't dream again, or at least didn't remember it. Didn't mention it at breakfast. Freddie ordered eggs and toast. Betty had oatmeal and more coffee. I had coffee and nothing else because my stomach felt off. Sleep okay? Betty asked. Fine, I said. She nodded. Freddie didn't look up from his eggs. We got back on the road at 8:45. Karen Harrison's address was another 3 hours north. The plan was to arrive early afternoon, make contact, collect what we needed, and head back same day if possible. Freddie didn't like overnight stays when we could avoid them. He didn't say why, didn't need to. My phone buzzed at 10:30. Text from Danny. You seeing anything weird on your end? I frowned. Typed back. Like what? 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Interference. Small stuff. Let me know if timestamps look off. I checked my message history. Everything looked fine. Told him so. Okay. Monitoring. I put the phone back in my pocket and watched the road. An hour later, Betty said, I need to file a form. Freddie glanced at the rear view. What kind? Symptom report, standard exposure follow-up. That got my attention. I turned around. Betty was looking at her laptop screen, not at us. What symptom? Freddie asked. Still calm. Still driving exactly 68 in a 65. Recurring dream, Betty said. Same location 3 nights running. Matches described material from the case file. My stomach did something. Details, Freddie said. Betty's eyes flicked to me for half a second, then back to her screen. Hotel corridor, cream walls, patterned carpet, flickering lights, exit sign at the end, tilted left. I didn't say anything. Freddie was quiet for 5 seconds, then, filing one too? Betty looked up. Same dream? I asked. Yeah. When? Last 3 nights. Figured it was just reading the file. Happens sometimes. He changed lanes to pass a truck. Signaled properly, merged back. Didn't think about it until Betty said something. I should have told them then. Didn't. Betty finished typing and closed her laptop. Form submitted. Polly will see it by end of day. She'll pull us if it's a problem, Freddie said. Yeah. We stopped for gas and bathroom at 11:40. I checked my phone while Freddie pumped. 4 texts from Danny, all sent in the last 2 minutes according to the timestamps. But I hadn't felt the phone buzz 4 times. I'd felt it once. Opened the thread. First message. Still good? Second message. Ray? Third message. Checking in. Respond when you can. Fourth message. Never mind. Looks like delivery delay on my end. I frowned. Scrolled up. The timestamps were wrong. The first message showed 10:38. The fourth showed 10:36. The 2 in between were 10:37 and 10:41. I screenshotted it and sent it to Danny with, "This what you meant?" His reply came through immediately. Yeah. Seeing that on 3 devices now. Logs show messages sent in order but arrived scrambled. Then about 30 seconds later, everything corrects itself. Corrects how? Timestamps snap back to normal, like it didn't happen. I looked at my screen. The timestamps were fine now. 10:36, 10:37, 10:38, 10:41. Perfect order. Just happened again, I typed. I know. Logging everything. Keep your phone on. I got back in the car and told Freddie and Betty about the timestamps. Freddie didn't look surprised. Equipment desynchronization. It's in the file. I know it's in the file, I said. We haven't made contact yet. Doesn't matter. Exposure starts when you engage with the material. We've all been reading it for 2 days. Betty was looking at her own phone. Mine's fine. Check your messages to Danny, I said. She did. Her face changed. Okay, not fine. We got back on the highway. Nobody talked much after that. The hotel was in a town that mostly existed because of the interstate. 3 chains, 2 gas stations, 1 diner. We checked in at 1:15. I got room 214. Freddie got 216. Betty got 223. I noticed the door numbers while I was walking to my room: 201, 203, 208, 212, 214. I stopped, looked back down the hallway. 201, 203, 205, 208, 212, 214. Wait. I walked back toward the elevator, read the numbers again as I passed them: 214, 212, 210, 208, 205, 203, 201. Normal, sequential, the way they were supposed to be. I stood there for probably 30 seconds trying to figure out if I'd misread them the first time. Probably had. Tired, distracted, thinking about the case. Easy mistake. Went to my room, unpacked nothing, sat on the bed and opened my notes file. Polly's guidance had been clear. Document inconsistencies. Don't elaborate. Description is exposure. The more detail you preserve, the more you anchor the pattern. So I wrote, Thursday, urine 20 p.m. Hotel hallway door numbers appeared non-sequential on first pass, appeared normal on second pass, possible misreading. That was it. Didn't describe which numbers. Didn't specify the pattern. Just the fact. Next line, recurring dream since Tuesday night, matches case material. Same dream, reported independently by Jones and Carroll. Next line, phone message timestamps arriving out of sequence as of 10:38 a.m. Thursday, confirmed by Bird. Correction occurring within 30-second window. I read it back. Felt wrong to leave it that bare. Felt like I was missing context, skipping steps. But the file had been explicit. The more you describe it, the more it happens. So that was it. Facts only. No extra detail. I closed the file and checked the time. 2 p.m. We were supposed to meet Karen Harrison at 3. Freddie knocked at 2:15. I grabbed my jacket and the folder with our cover documentation. Betty was already in the hallway. Ready? Freddie asked. Yeah. We took Freddie's car. Karen Harrison's apartment was 20 minutes away, north side of a complex that looked about 15 years old. Beige siding, shared balconies, numbered parking spots. Betty rang the buzzer at Unit 12. Waited. Rang again. The intercom crackled. Hello? Ms. Harrison, I'm Agent Carroll. This is Agent Jones and Agent Richards. We spoke on the phone yesterday about your blog post. Pause, then. Come up, 3rd floor. The door buzzed. We went in. The hallway inside was fine. Normal. Numbered correctly. No flickering lights. No cream-colored walls. Just builder-grade apartment neutral with decent lighting. Karen Harrison opened her door before we knocked. She looked tired, that was the first thing. Not like she'd slept badly. Like she hadn't slept right in a while. Dark circles, hair pulled back but pieces falling out, oversized hoodie that she was probably wearing because it was easy. Come in, she said. The apartment was small. Galley kitchen visible from the front door. Living room with a couch and coffee table covered in notebooks and laptop chargers. Hallway leading back to what I assumed was a bedroom and bathroom. Bookshelves along one wall, a lot of books. Thanks for meeting with us, Betty said. Calm, professional, exactly the right tone. We know this probably seems strange. You said it was about online harassment. Karen looked at me, then Freddie, then back to Betty. Partly, Betty said. We've been tracking some flagged content online. Your post came up in our monitoring. We just want to ask a few questions, make sure there's no security concern. Karen frowned. Security concern? It's a dream I had. It's fiction. We understand, Betty said. Can we sit? Karen gestured at the couch. We sat. She stayed standing, arms crossed. I'd been watching for hoax signs since the door opened. Tells that someone was performing, rehearsing, setting up a story, over-explaining, watching for reactions, trying too hard to seem normal. Didn't see any of that. What I saw? Someone who was confused and tired, and maybe a little scared, but trying not to show it. The post used some specific terminology. I said boundary drift, echo entity. We're wondering where you encountered those terms. I didn't, Karen said. I mean, I made them up. It's just, that's what it felt like. In the dream. You didn't research any government material? Freddie asked. Field reports, archived documents, anything like that? No, I work at a bookstore. I read horror novels and post stuff on my blog that like 10 people see. I don't know what government material you think I'd even have access to. She wasn't lying. I was pretty sure. I've done enough interviews to know what lying looks like. This wasn't it. Walk us through how you wrote the post, Betty said. Karen sat down finally in a chair across from the couch. I had the dream 3 nights in a row. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, same hallway every time. I kept waking up and it wouldn't leave my head, so I wrote it down Friday night. Posted it at like 2 a.m. because I couldn't sleep and figured maybe if I got it out, I'd stop thinking about it. Did it work? I asked. No. She laughed, but it didn't sound happy. It got worse. I had the dream 2 more times after I posted, and then Wesley said he had it too. I looked up from my notes. Wesley? My coworker, Wesley Chapman. He texted me Saturday saying he had a weird dream and described the same hallway, same exit sign, same everything. She pulled her phone out of her hoodie pocket. I can show you the texts if you want. Please, Betty said. Karen handed over her phone. Betty screenshotted the thread and sent it to herself, then passed the phone to me. The texts were there. Saturday morning, 9:43 a.m. Wesley. Okay, this is weird, but I had the strangest dream last night. Long hallway, cream walls, exit sign at the end that was crooked. Does that mean anything to you? Karen's reply. Holy shit. Yes, I've been having that dream all week. I handed the phone back. Anyone else? My neighbor Chloe, she mentioned it yesterday, said she had a dream about a hallway that wouldn't end, and did I know anything about it because it felt like something I'd write? 3 people, independent reports, same details. The file had called it shared dream contamination. 4 to 9 days before physical manifestations. Karen's post went live 6 days ago. We'd like to take a formal statement, Betty said. And if you're willing, we'd like to collect some data from your devices. Just timestamps, metadata, nothing invasive. Why? Karen asked. Standard procedure when we're tracking flagged content, Freddie said. Helps us rule things out. Karen looked at all 3 of us. This isn't about harassment, is it? We're just being thorough, Betty said. Karen didn't look convinced, but she nodded. Fine. What do you need? I called Danny. He walked me through the remote log collection over the phone while Karen watched. It took 20 minutes. Her laptop, her phone, timestamps from her blog back end. Danny was quiet for most of it, just giving instructions. Then, Ray, you seeing the upload stamps on the post? Hold on. I checked the screen. The post metadata showed the draft, saved at 1:58 a.m., published at 2:15 a.m. But the image file embedded in the post, a photo Karen said she took of her notebook where she'd handwritten the dream, that had an upload timestamp of 2:22 a.m., 7 minutes after she published the post. Yeah, I said, seeing it. That's not possible, Danny said. You can't publish a post before you upload the image file. The image has to be there first. Could it be a system error? Maybe, but I'm seeing similar discrepancies in her text message logs. Outgoing messages to Wesley timestamped 3 minutes before she opened the messaging app. I looked at Karen. She was scrolling through her own phone, not paying attention to us. How many anomalies? I asked. 15 in the last week. Small stuff. A minute here, 2 minutes there. But consistent. Same thing that was happening to my phone. To all of our phones. Equipment desynchronization. I thanked Danny and hung up. Told Betty and Freddie we had what we needed for now. We'll be in touch, Betty said to Karen. If you have the dream again or notice anything unusual, call this number. She handed over a card with a division line that routed to voicemail. Karen took it. Can you tell me what this is actually about? We're still determining that, Betty said. We left. In the car, Freddie said, She's not faking. No, I agreed, and the timestamps matched the equipment issues we've been seeing. Yeah. Betty was typing on her laptop in the back. Danny's report just came through. He's flagging this as active spread. The post has been viewed 1,800 times since it went live. Mirrored on 4 sites, shared in 3 subreddits, and embedded in 2 YouTube video discussions. 1,800 people. Reading the same details, describing the same pattern, attention anchoring, amplification through repetition. We were trying to contain something that had already gotten out. I opened my notes file and added 1 line. Upload timestamp anomalies confirmed on Harrison's devices. Match ongoing equipment desynchronization. Shared dream reports from Chapman and Bowen. Post viewed 1,800 plus times across multiple platforms. That was all I let myself write, but sitting in the car driving back toward the hotel, I kept thinking about the corridor. The exit sign tilted 3 degrees left. I'd seen it in the dream before I read Karen Harrison's post, which meant I'd been exposed before I even knew her name. Freddie started the takedown protocol Friday morning. He had a list of contacts, intermediaries, who handled DMCA requests and platform compliance, and Betty worked the back end, flagging the mirrors for removal. I sat at my desk, tracking the spread. Karen Harrison's post was live on her blog and 4 aggregator sites as of Thursday. By Friday, it had jumped to 9. Reddit thread with 200 comments. Someone posted it to a creepypasta forum. Archive.org had snapshotted it twice. My job was scraping copies into the sealed archive before they disappeared. Download the page, save the metadata, document the timestamp and source URL. Move to the next one. Freddie sent the first batch of requests at 10 a.m. By noon, 3 mirrors were down. By 1 p.m., 7 new ones were up. I messaged him. It's spreading faster. Noticed, he wrote back, pushing harder. Betty called at 2:15. We're getting pushback on the forum. Someone's asking why the post keeps getting removed. I pulled up the thread. 17 comments debating whether it was copyright infringement or censorship. 3 people had reposted the full text in the replies. They're replicating it manually, I said. I see that. Another mirror went down at 2:40. The Reddit thread got locked at 3. By 3:30, someone had posted a new thread titled, "Why is this story being suppressed?" with a link to a backup and a paragraph about free speech. That thread hit 400 comments in 20 minutes. I tracked the pattern in a spreadsheet. takedown requests, new posts, comment volume, time between removal and repost. The curve didn't flatten, it climbed. Freddie called it 4. We're making it worse. Yeah. Streisand effect, he said. Probably the right term. People notice when you try to erase something. They save it, they share it, they argue about why someone wanted it gone. I messaged Danny. Can you estimate total views? He replied 6 minutes later. Ballpark 8,000 unique yesterday, 15,000 today, accelerating. I checked the entity file. Attention anchoring. Repeated exposure increases manifestation probability. Discussing or describing the entity feeds the effect. We weren't just failing to contain it. We were making people talk about it more. I wrote that in my notes. Risk curve correlates with debate and speculation, not just passive readership. Suppression attempts amplify engagement. I opened the Echo 14 file to double-check the exact wording on attention anchoring. The section read, subjects report spatial distortion in transitional spaces, particularly hotel corridors and stairwells. Walls appear to shift incrementally closer with each pass. Exit signage displays inconsistent orientation, often tilted 3 to 4 degrees left of center. I stopped. Hotel corridors and stairwells. I'd read this file 4 times. It said enclosed areas, transitional spaces, buildings. I scrolled up to the summary page. Boundary drift occurs in enclosed areas, hallways, rooms, parking structures. Parking structures was new. I opened the archive and pulled the original intake report from 2 years ago. March 9th. First encounter logged by a field agent in Nevada who reported walls closing in a concrete room with a steel door. No mention of hotel corridors, no mention of exit signs. I checked the April classification memo. Entity exhibits spatial anomalies in confined interior environments. Generic. Correct. I went back to the current file. Hotel corridors. Exit signage tilted 3 to 4 degrees left. That was Karen Harrison's phrasing from her post, titled Left at the end of the hallway. I checked the edit log on the file. Last modified April 9th, 8 a.m. Modifier listed as System Update Intake Integration. I messaged Denise. Can you pull audit history for Echo 14 case file? She replied 11 minutes later. Attached. The PDF showed every edit since the file opened. April 2nd, classification assigned. April 5th, field notes appended. April 9th, description updated for consistency with witness testimony. Witness testimony. Karen Harrison wasn't a witness. She was a blogger who wrote a dream. I scrolled through the witness list. 4 names. None of them Karen Harrison. But her language was in the file now. I called Denise. The April 9th update. What's the source for the new description? Hold on. I heard keys clicking. Intake integration from flagged external content. Standard process when civilian descriptions provide additional detail. It's rewriting the original encounters to match her post. Pause. The audit trail is clean, no unauthorized access, all changes logged and approved. Who approved it? System did. Cross-reference protocol. I hung up and stared at the file. The division's own records were shifting to align with Karen Harrison's blog post. Like her version was becoming the reference, and the original encounters were updating themselves to fit. Polly called me in at 4:30. Same gray room, same recorder. She had my symptom reports printed out. Recurring dreams, timestamp anomalies, spatial misreading. You filed 3 in 2 days. Standard exposure follow-up, I said. Freddie and Betty filed matching reports. I nodded. She asked the baseline questions. 4 words forward and backward. Breakfast Tuesday, last argument. I answered correctly. She showed me a photo of a hallway. Cream walls, patterned carpet, overhead lights. Does this look familiar? From the file, I said. Have you seen it outside the file? I thought about the dream. 3 nights running. In a dream. Describe it. Long hallway, exit sign at the end, tilted left. I walk but don't get closer. She wrote something down. That's consistent with Karen Harrison's description. I read her post. Before or after the dream started, I thought back. Tuesday night, first dream. Wednesday morning, case flagged. After. She underlined something. You dreamed it before reading it. I read the division file Tuesday afternoon. The division file didn't include hotel corridors or exit signs until April 9th. Your dream was Tuesday night. I didn't have an answer for that. She asked more questions. 20 minutes. Then she said, You're cleared to continue, but I'm tightening your exposure limits. No rereading case material, no revisiting Karen Harrison's post. Minimal documentation, report any new symptoms immediately. I went back to my desk. The records weren't stable anymore. That was the problem. We built the whole system on the idea that division files were ground truth and external content was noise. But the files were rewriting themselves. I opened the external web archive. Wayback Machine. Pulled the earliest snapshot of Karen Harrison's blog. April 7th, 2:15 a.m. The post was there, full text, boundary drift, echo 14, exit sign tilted left. I checked the division's first encounter with echo 14. March 9th, 29 days earlier. That held. We encountered it first. She wrote about it later. Except our file didn't mention hotel corridors or exit signs until April 9th, 2 days after her post. I documented it in my notes. Possibility? External dissemination preceded internal encounter manifestation. Our first encounter might have followed narrative replication rather than preceded it. I sat with that for a while. Joey called at 5:40. Pause the takedowns. Return to headquarters. We're not containing it, I said. I know. Come back. I drove back Saturday morning, Diamond alone this time. Freddie and Betty stayed to monitor Karen Harrison. I got to the office at 2 p.m., went straight to Joey's floor. He was at his desk, didn't look up. You read the 14 file lately? This morning. Notice anything? It's rewriting itself to match Harrison's post. He nodded. Denise says the audit trail is clean. It is. The system's doing it automatically. That's not how systems work. I know. He leaned back. I'm pulling older files, recruitment records, intake procedures, anything that predates current active cases. Why? Because if our case files are unstable, I need to know how far back it goes. I asked if I could see the recruitment files. He looked at me for a few seconds, then he picked up his phone and called Denise. Bring Richards the precursor box. She arrived 10 minutes later with a plastic bin, sealed tape across the lid. She set it on Joey's desk and left. Joey cut the tape and opened it. Manila folders inside. He pulled one labeled Precursor Narratives, Recruitment Division. He handed it to me. I opened it. The first document was a printout from a fiction forum, dated 6 years ago. Title, The Metadata Analyst. I skimmed it. A guy named Ray, mid-30s, 8 years DoD signals analysis. TSSCI clearance. Left for archives work. Wanted stable hours. Was engaged, not anymore. Gets recruited to a division that monitors internet fiction for threat patterns. Meets a psychologist named Polly. She runs baseline tests. 4 words forward and backward. Meets the division head. Tall guy. Military posture, doesn't give explanations. I stopped reading. Keep going, Joey said. I kept going. The story described Polly's testing style. Methodical, clinical, scenario-based questions about following rules and reporting inconsistencies. It described Joey's management approach. Compartmentalized, risk-averse, focused on containment optics. It described my first case. Sleep paralysis post. Forgot to check user history. Polly corrected me. It described my second case. Bleeding walls. Traced it to mold. The post was dated 4 years before I applied to the division. I looked up at Joey. There are 6 more like that, he said. Different forums, different authors, all describing division structure, personnel types, recruitment protocols, all time-stamped before we hired anyone matching those descriptions. Someone leaked. No one leaked. We ran full background checks. None of the authors have connections to DoD, intelligence, or anyone in this building. They're just people writing fiction. I flipped through the folder. More printouts. A story about a field agent named Freddie who preferred action over paperwork. A story about a technical analyst named Danny who tracked metadata and made dry jokes. A story about an administrator named Denise who enforced clearance protocols. All posted before those people were hired. We thought they were coincidences, Joey said. Common names, common archetypes. But the details match too closely. I found another printout. A case report about spatial anomalies in a Nevada concrete room. Posted to a horror subreddit 8 months before the field team encountered it. They're writing it before it happens, I said. Or we're following a script that already exists. I sat down. Joey pulled another folder. After-action reports. I cross-referenced them with old forum posts and blog archives. 62% of our documented encounters match narrative descriptions posted months or years earlier. Different authors. No coordination. Just people writing stories that later align with field data. The division is part of it. Maybe. He closed the folder. Or maybe reality is just statistically lazy and people guess correctly, more often than we think. I didn't believe that. Neither did he. I went back to my desk, put the folder in my filing cabinet, locked it. Polly's guidance was clear. Minimal documentation. No rereading case material, tighter exposure limits. I followed it. I stopped opening the Echo 14 file. I didn't pull up Karen Harrison's post. I logged my hours and filed my reports and kept my notes brief. But the corridor didn't stop. I dreamed it again Saturday night, Sunday night, Monday night, and it started leaking. Tuesday morning, I walked to the break room, took the elevator to the second floor, turned left out of the elevator. The hallway was wrong. Just for a second. Cream walls instead of gray, patterned carpet instead of tile, flickering overhead light at the far end. I blinked. Gray walls, tile floor, steady fluorescent panels. I kept walking. Wednesday, I went to the archive room, swiped my badge, opened the door. For half a second, it didn't lead to the archive. It led to a stairwell going down. I blinked. Archive room, filing cabinets, concrete floor. I filed a symptom report. Peripheral spatial errors. Waking environment briefly matching dream material before correcting. Polly didn't pull me. She just updated my exposure limits again. No case file access for 48 hours. I sat at my desk Thursday morning and understood something. Containment might depend on me continuing to act like an operative. The division followed a script. Recruitment, testing, case assignment, exposure monitoring, cognitive checks. I fit the pattern. I played the role. If I deviated, quit, refused assignments, broke protocol, maybe the script loosened. Maybe the structure destabilized. Or maybe that was just me trying to make sense of something that didn't have sense. I opened a new report. Internal update. Subject: Echo 14 dissemination and narrative precedence. I wrote 2 paragraphs, factual, minimal detail. Then I wrote, recommendation, redacted until redacted with redacted oversight to prevent. The system auto-filled the next sentence. Further alignment between external narrative descriptions and division encounter records. I hadn't typed that. The cursor sat at the end of the sentence. Blinking? I deleted it, typed something else. Recommendation: pause containment efforts pending. The system auto-filled again. Review of temporal precedents in case file modifications. I stopped typing. The screen sat there, waiting, like it already knew what I was going to write. I minimized the document, turned off my monitor, sat in the dark,